proactive type of behavior,
Yep.
which is writing thank you cards, which is cultivating new audiences for your dealership through social media,
Yep.
which is doing things that actually help and give breathing room to your sales team to not feel like they have to be staring out a window and waiting for the up bus. Now, all of a sudden, you've done something foundationally that helps the team and helps the culture.
Don't wait around for the up bus. Get in the driver's seat and take control of your operations. Are you ready to increase profitability, have better processes, and get proactive with your operations? Welcome to the Up Bus Podcast. Here's your hosts, Jason Harris and Jason Rice.
What's going on? What's up, man? Yeah. See you too. Ready to do this?
Been waiting for the up bus.
You waiting for it? It's here. Look at this thing. Show me around. All right, come on in.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on an episode of The Up Bus. I'm actually in the Up Bus. I stole the bus from Jason Rice. Sorry, Jason, I had to because I needed to come see the one and only Danny, all right, with VinQ and Country Hill Motors. Danny, what's going on, man? It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
You're at my car dealership.
I'm at your car dealership. I think last time we did a podcast together, we were talking about the car dealership. Now I'm finally actually here.
You're here, yeah.
This is great.
It's super cool. The worlds converging.
You know what was really cool is you have this classic orange Toyota Cruiser,
the FJ.
the FJ over there.
FJ40.
I gotta be honest with you, it's kind of speaking to me, man.
It matches the vibe.
It matches the vibe. Well, thank you, man, for coming to do this podcast with me. Me and Jason have been working so hard to put this together, and when he told me he was gonna put together the actual bus, I was like, dude, you're crazy. Are you serious?
When you guys pulled up, we had salespeople going, "It's finally happening."
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
Here, right?
At first, they were like, "What?" They thought I was like pranking them.
Or they're pranking them, right?
Yeah.
No, man, look, I mean, it's so funny. When I first heard of the Up Bus, I think I was probably my first year in the business, and I just remember a manager coming out, and I was probably standing outside, probably doing something I wasn't supposed to, right? And I got yelled at, "Hey, Jason, what are you doing waiting around for the Up Bus? Get inside and make some phone calls." And that was kind of like, Up Bus, what is this thing? And I had to ask around. It's like, I don't even know how it started.
Yeah, it used to be like a cattle prod, such a negative thing, right? That you just poke somebody. You're like, "What are you doing, waiting on the Up Bus?"
Why are you doing
that?
that?
Yeah, why are you doing
right?
that? But I love that you guys are turning it into a proactive thing.
Well, that's right? Because if you think about it, like the whole idea of waiting for this Up Bus or waiting for this unicorn to show up at your dealership was this very reactive thing, and it's like we're saying, hey, look, something that we've joked about in the industry, I don't know how far back the joke goes. I have no idea. I know for at least 30 years because
You
I've
think
been
they were
talking to
doing
some
it with
people.
like Model Ts sitting there?
It's like, stop waiting for the Model C to come around. Get inside and telegram some people.
That's funny.
So, we're trying to take something that's negative and we're going to make it a positive
Yep.
thing. And it's all about being proactive, right? And, honestly, when I think of some of the most proactive people I know in the business, you totally come to mind, right? Not only
Thanks.
just the way that you guys run your dealership, but also the way that you run VinQ. So it's just like, that's what I want to start today's kind of conversation, right? Is when you think of being proactive, in your operations, your day-to-day operations, what comes to mind for you?
Well, so you're not just at Country Hill Motors, you're also at the VinQ Incubator, because something that we just learned is innovation happens here. And as somebody who loves technology, it's like super easy to start imagining what you're going to build and create. But if you're not on the front line, actually testing it and smoothing out processes and actually making a process better, then you're just creating a shiny object. You're not creating like a weapon or a capability that's actually going to enhance something. And that was a big lesson for me and a big lesson for our team, because I can't tell you how often we get excited about shiny objects. I mean, we sell them for a living, right? That you noticed the FJ, which by the end of the show, I hope we're doing a contract right here. We'll put a little...
Sorry, hon, I'm coming home with an orange FJ.
It'll look good.
It will.
So Yeah, so it's just that it's not overly complicated in the idea. For sure, innovation happens on the front line, and as long as we can keep that intention and understanding that whether it's our developers, whether it's our salespeople, whether it's our performance managers, whether it's our salespeople, we're staying honest to the mission and the vision, then we can move the industry forward. And the industry moves forward when we can get audience on our vehicles. And our vehicles stand tall in the marketplace, and who makes them stand tall? We do. So it's that cycle.
But it's not waiting for that to happen.
It's not waiting for that to happen.
I've had the opportunity to interview hundreds of dealers across the country, and the one thing I have found super consistent, and I would say what I consider to be an operator. I don't consider everyone to be an operator, right? But what I really find someone consistent as far as being an operator is that mindset. Yeah. Around just like they're not thinking they're doing the now, like in the moment, and then but their mind is 3 months from now or the third quarter of next year or 5 years from now. Like what do I need to be proactive? And those are the dealers that always succeed. So how did you guys really kind of at the dealership level embody kind of that proactive nature? Now, was that just something that came natural to you, or was it just
no?
Okay.
No, I've said this like 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. People probably are tired of me saying it, but pain pushes, vision pulls. You're either pushed by pain to the point where you're like, man, screw this, I'll never succeed, I got to get out of this place, it's not right, whatever. Or you have this moment where you go, man, I have an idea, I have vision. And then all of a sudden vision grabs you and it starts pulling you, right? But you don't necessarily know where you're going, but you know that you're being pulled into the right direction. And then depending on how each of us is built, for me, I start trying to assemble a team of people smarter than me to say, hey, I have this vision. I will not let go of it. And I believe this is the end result that we want, but I don't necessarily know how to get there. And then you start figuring that out. And once you start figuring out how to get there, all of a sudden you have these little wins.
Yeah.
Where you
it's the little wins, right?
It's the little wins.
Yeah.
My mom taught me when I was a kid. She said, when you're having a bad day, find one thing you can do well and focus it around there. There's another one. What's that Army general that talks about making your bed in the morning, right? So that's so true. That is so true. And so being proactive starts with the little things.
It is.
And then in those little things, when you can find ways to be better, then all of a sudden others will pick up from that. Mm-hmm. And then when you can take some technology to take the best-in-class processes and scale them, now you're helping a lot of people. And that's what I think technology does, is it scales process.
But it's those little moments to get to there.
It totally
is. I think a lot of people get stuck in kind of this reactive nature because they don't look at it as the little baby steps to get to the point.
Yeah, because it's not sexy.
No,
sexy
they want to eat the whole elephant in just one shot,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like, can I just go out there and I'll be done with it?
Right.
It's like, but no, and I love so say that one more time. It's pain.
Pain pushes.
Pain pushes vision.
Pain pushes, vision pulls.
All right. Pain pushes, vision pulls. You guys hear that? I like that. That's going to be the title of this podcast. But no, you're 100% right. It's like we feel that pain, and then we have the option to either react to it or proactively figure out how I'm not going to feel that pain.
That's totally right.
Anymore.
So I'm today's Thursday. On Tuesdays, we do our calls with Lot Pop, with Steve. And he's awesome, and our team does it. And for us, being proactive and understanding what are our switch opportunities here on the lot, that's changed the way that we operate in here, right? Because we're looking at it not just from waiting on what leads we can get, but also understanding the assets we have might have a different audience that we didn't consider. And so that's really, really important for our team, and empowering them through technology to be able to understand that instead of literally mine for Bitcoin on their computers to try to understand, okay, who can I sell? Like the old days of going through the white pages and saying maybe they need a car.
Maybe they need one. You must have worked at the same dealership I worked at when I first started.
Yeah,
here's the white pages. Here's the white pages. Start with, I don't know, A and go to F. There
I did it. I totally did it. So I'm sorry for those of you that I called.
Sorry for those. I do remember making those calls.
Oh, I totally did those calls.
I totally did those calls.
And so, look, 10% better every day. So
Yeah.
cliche, but so true.
Yeah.
And I'm learning, but I'm most importantly super curious. And I think that curiosity is infectious. And so when you can inspire others to be curious about the little things, those little things all add up. It's, small changes, big shifts.
Yeah. Well, I go to the little things, and I love this because I really do think little things makes the biggest difference. I mean, actually, I think even just the overall experience that the customer has is always little things that really made a big experience
Yep.
to them, right? But how we win in those little things is, as an industry, we gotta start documenting better. Like
So,
writing stuff down, really
Yeah.
just making a note of like, okay, this is a pain, and how I'm gonna do this. Go ahead, you were thinking.
Well, okay, so I had a friend of mine share this with me recently. He's a part of a big dealer group, and he said we used to behave like a group of dealers,
Yep.
And today we behave like a dealer group. I've never thought about it that way, right? And when I walk into Target to shop for something, I don't imagine that the customer service tower is sitting there making decisions on what toothpaste to put on the shelf, right?
Probably not.
But at most car dealerships, that's exactly what's happening, right? We're selling cars, and we're online on whatever website trying to make decisions on what cars to immediately buy. And the question is, where do those decisions come from? What data points, what instincts, what ego, what experiences of, I got screwed on the last one, or I did well on this one, is causing me to make those decisions. And when we talk about getting better as an industry, really it's an opportunity to look at other industries that do really well at supply chain management, and have perfected the ability to stock product on shelves that lower customer acquisition costs and lower, obviously, advertising, and raise the rate of sale and give us the ability to perform at a higher level, which, as you know, affects everyone.
Yes.
From title people to salespeople to service people. It's the engine that feeds the whole organization. So for us, being curious about what insights we're delivering to our team is critical. And that's why the marriage of VinQ and Country Hill is so important to me. But it's grown so much, right? Because you have to have the stomach to test live, because it doesn't
always work, right? It doesn't always
But that's
work.
the point, is break it fast.
Yeah.
Break it as fast as possible. Because when you do that, now all of a sudden you're like, I know what not to do, right?
It's actually another good reason. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I'm just trying to think of why some people are kind of stuck in this reactive, rut. And sometimes I think maybe it is because of the fear of failing. Because you're gonna make some mistakes. You're gonna break some eggs. I always like to kind of call it as like we're building the car as we're driving it.
We are, totally.
Right?
And sometimes changing the tires as it's making a
Like,
corner
as a-
at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. But I mean, that is that proactive nature. But going back to what you were saying earlier, when it comes to the inventory that we have on the lot, the age of that inventory, the retention problems that we might have in our fixed ops, it's like we don't have those problems. We had those problems. We just chose to deal with them later down the road, and we start being reactive. And I still find, like, as an industry, we're still, there are some great operators out there. If you're listening to this and you guys aren't great, if you're working with guys like VinQ and Lop, I know you're not. So, but there still seems to be this kind of epidemic where it's just, I'm gonna wait until it's a problem, and then I'll
But
make
I will tell you, the culture drives all that. So if
there we go.
there's leaders that say, hey, there's always a better way, because software's never done.
Yeah.
Business is never done. It's not like we create something and say, here, we're good, it's done forever. It's quite the opposite. This is a living thing that has a heartbeat, and then there are people behind every one of these car sales, and there's people behind every insight and every piece of data behind VinQ. They're actively working and sitting and curating that information so that it's live and accurate, and not looking at old things, but looking at current things to make current decisions. That's really, really important. But we only learn to understand those things are important either through making mistakes,
Of course.
or others telling us, right? In middle school and high school, I was always drawn to leadership classes, but I never understood, like, how do you define a leader? Like, what is a leader? And for the longest time, I had imposter syndrome of imagining, as a young guy who wanted to be an adult since he was 6, I thought, I was like, why would anybody listen to me, right? Or on the flip side, I've always been attracted to mentors, and I'd be like, what do they want out of this? Like, is there something that they are trying to get out of this relationship that like money or whatever? So when I understood that leadership really comes down to having strong vision and the ability to be curious enough that the pain no longer matters, that's critical. And I heard the former CEO of ChatGPT, now working for Microsoft, say this the other day, which I just loved. He said, burnout in any industry is really only when you do things that don't work. When they work, it's fuel.
You keep moving forward.
You keep moving forward.
You keep moving forward.
But when you keep doing the same thing that doesn't work, you burn out. Make sense?
Definition of insanity, right?
Definition of insanity. So culture, I think, is in charge of that.
Yeah.
And whether your culture is just you, then be mindful of who is putting wisdom into your brain. Who are your friends? Who are the people around you? And are they cheering you on? And are they helping you? If it's you and maybe a couple others, protect that team and identify the leader and let that leader lead.
Really let them take ownership of it.
That's right.
Be
and
the
support
captain.
Them. That's right. And support them because it's a skill. And then when you have an organization that is maybe 50 or 100 or more than that, then it's really important that trust exists because you can't scale an organization without trust.
100%.
The moment you start micromanaging or getting in there and making things personal can get really dangerous really fast because innovation stalls.
It does. It really does. Right. I want to step back a little bit and kind of look at some of the pains that you guys went through your journey. Right, because I'm thinking that there are definitely some people out there that are watching or listening right now, and and probably in a similar situation, they've start to feel the pains or start to notice the pains, or maybe even start documenting them. But what were some of those aha moments for you guys that were just like, look, we got to stop to what we were saying. We can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting some different results. What were a couple of those moments to say, like, okay, nope, we're going to just decide to do a different direction, own this pain, and figure out a better way? What was some of those at the dealership that you noticed for yourself?
I think we're all sensitive to different things. For me, I would always hear, man, we have all these meetings and none of this stuff sticks. Like, I would hear that all the time. And at some point, I had to turn that off. And I had to go, okay, maybe that's a pattern that people are feeling or seeing, but I am not going to let that stick to me. Instead, I am going to keep moving forward. So what I chose to do as a leader is not get stuck in the negative, but only get stuck in the positive, to say, I hear you, so that fuels me forward. And so then I would start taking those things that we discussed and making sure that I was the leader of that correction, whether it was something in service that we had to correct or a new process we had to install. Like right now here, we're trying to upgrade our trade appraisal process so that our salespeople have more technology in their hands in order to we want to dictate a little bit more on that trade appraisal process. So you as a customer come into us and don't get a different trade number depending on which manager or salesperson you get.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering kind of what was the process? What were you seeing? What was the pain?
Yeah, that was
it was
one
kind
example.
Of an inconsistent in just, if I went to Bob could give me one price. If I came back,
if you were
3
trading
weeks later,
if you're trading for a 18 Ford Explorer and Bob traded for one last week and got hurt on it, then he's going to be super conservative with you relative to John, who had a great experience with a Ford Explorer, and all of a sudden now you're getting 2 trade numbers. But that is based on what I call ego, and so we try to take that and add science to it to say, what was the reconditioning amount? What were the issues on that? How do we add like an OBD2 scanner or any kind of technology to this so that we can add more skill to that transaction? And then how do we scale that to our salespeople? So today in VinQ, they're scanning the car. They're getting the data of the vehicle, both mechanical and cosmetic. And it in that inspection then initiates the desk. The desk does what we call 2-hand touch, where we get more than one set of eyes on that appraisal, and then we're off to the races. And so what it's done is it's created a lot more collaboration for us. and speed.
Because you now can have two parties working
Yeah,
together on
that's
this.
right.
Okay, I
Yeah.
get it. It's a check and balance kind
It's
of
a checks
system,
and balance,
right?
and the whole goal is 2 conversion points. Days to market,
Yep.
how quickly can we get it online, and what's the best information we can get to our fix team so that they can know the complaints we have, so they can give us the corrections we need. Then days to sale.
That's the collaboration portion.
That's the collaboration portion.
Oh, see, that makes sense. I mean, look, I've definitely seen this as a pattern in some of the best operators out there that I've spoken to or had an opportunity to podcast with too, is, they really do, they really, really strive to break down the silos inside of a dealership,
I call those islanders.
With like Morse code, how you guys talk to each other. Hey,
Well,
what are you doing over there?
So you said pain. Like, that's another thing I used to hear all the time. Like, well, nobody else can do it, so I have to do it.
Yes.
I'm sensitive to that because anytime you have silos, or I call them islanders, islanders feel like they're always on an island, and they feel like I'm the only one that can do this. And it's not just dangerous to that person, but it's more dangerous, quite frankly, to the group, because nobody builds equity in the solution.
Of course.
And the goal is to build equity in the solution and to suffer it together and then to win together. That creates, in my opinion, winning cultures and winning teams.
It truly does, right? And also getting back to that, the culture part, you nailed the culture part, right? Because, once we start breaking down those silos and those teams, really start collaborating, that's a word I think I'd like to hear more.
What's that?
Collaborating.
Yeah, for
Do you know
sure.
what I mean? Like I'm just thinking of all of the 3-letter acronyms and 4-letter words that we use inside of a car dealership. we have very specific language that we use in the car dealership, hence the up bus. What does that mean to anybody except
Right.
automotive, right? But collaboration, that is a word I'd like to hear more being used.
And show winning success success stories of it, right? I served on the chamber board here in Kansas City for 7 years, and diversity was a big conversation.
Of course.
But it's such a word that nobody knew in the early days of what to do with. Like, what do you mean diversity? I just need more black people, more Chinese people, and more Indian people, and more white people.
Do I need to maintain a ratio? Like, what's going on?
Right. Was it butts and seats? And once we asked the right questions, and once we understood what success looks like, and then once we understood the benefit of actually having diversity, now it all made sense. And collaboration's no different. It's really, really important that if you imagine that you're going to build or scale a car dealership or a technology company,
Sure.
Trust, as we all know, is earned, but it's only earned through suffering through whatever pain and then onto vision it takes to actually make the thing you're doing successful.
I like this. I'm just trying to think of collaboration. I'm thinking one of the reasons why we haven't seen a lot of collaboration in between the different silos or the different islands inside of our dealership. I'm going to ask you a hairy question. It's got some hair on it, so we'll see. All right. Do you feel, is it because of the way we compensate our teams that we're not leaving space for collaboration?
When you say we, do you mean
Industry.
Country Hill or do you mean
Industry.
Okay, so are we talking salespeople?
Yeah.
Okay, so a salesperson is...
I find rabbit holes, and I'm totally going down one right now.
No, let's do it. So this was a learning I had 15 years ago.
Okay.
I was like, we need to write thank you cards. We need to write thank you cards. And I could not get for the life of me to anybody to write a thank you card.
Sure.
And then I was like, okay, Dennis, you and me, we're the thank you card people. I was like, if we lead by example, everyone will write thank you cards. And guess what? Only Dennis and I consistently wrote thank you cards. And then I was like, why? Why are people not doing this? And I discovered that the comp plan incentivizes sales. And if you're not actively behaving in a way that sells cars, everything else is a distraction. So when you change the comp plan to allow space for proactive type of behavior, which is writing thank you cards, which is cultivating new audiences for your dealership through social media, which is doing things that actually help and give breathing room to your sales team to not feel like they have to be staring out a window and waiting for the up bus. Now all of a sudden you've done something foundationally that helps the team and helps the culture. So we don't compensate that way. We compensate with a really generous base and a really generous proactive approach so that salespeople can have the breathing room to be good humans and meet our customers online or in store. And something we've been talking about a lot is trade cycle management.
Yeah.
Who's the best at it, in my opinion, is Apple. Every time they come out with a new phone,
right?
Everybody's in line waiting.
Here it is.
What version is that?
I just ordered my newest one. So
I just got my newest one.
Did you just get
So trade cycle management, right?
Exactly.
So how can we have true trade cycle management in a car dealership if we're always only after new customers?
100%. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was told by an incredible mentor many years ago, and this was when I was back in sales. He goes, Jason, you need to sell 500 cars. That's it. What are you talking about? I need to sell 500 cars. Like, so what? I'm going to work at this for a couple of years and be done with this? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? He goes, no, you need 500 customers, and then just you own those relationships, you develop those relationships, and that will feed you for your entire career. And it was a mind-opening experience. Like, what a challenge, right? Really think about being proactive, right? I mean, if we told our sales team that you can only sell 500 cars in your career, God, that would be a really different approach to how I sell every single one of those and how I create that unique customer experience. You know, look, I love that. I did not intend to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm so glad we went down this rabbit hole. I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, and I bet you we could probably make compensation like an entire podcast, you know, pretty much in itself, right? You know, but before I let you go, I have to say thank you.
Yeah,
this has been so much. I always love jamming with you, man.
This is
always
super fun, and it's a beautiful day out here in Kansas City.
It's a beautiful day in Kansas City. I stole the bus from Jason Rice and told him I'm going to go. Thanks, Jason. Thank you. Thank you. You know, but hey, before I let you go, for everybody out there watching, listening right now, who would maybe like to connect with you or kind of follow along, you know, with your company's journeys, what's the best way to connect?
Okay, so I'm an operator. That's also why I'm here in the morning, and then I go to VinQ and I spend the rest of my day there. I love being on the front line. So you can literally text me, call me, email me, any of those things. But find me on social media. Like I'm on on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. Shoot me a note. And because I'm an operator, that's like my love language. Yeah. So anytime we get into talking about how do we solve this, and right now I think is a really interesting time because supply's back, specifically used cars, and demand's down. And so when demand is down, what does that mean? We need audience.
Yes.
We need customers, right? And in order to have customers, we have to be more surgical about our efforts and our time so that we're not doing the old spray and pray technique with mail, but actually understanding how to attract the right audience for the inventory you have and then replenish that inventory with cars that are going to produce even more audience. Right? That's the cycle that I want to be talking about. And so reach out to me if any of this stuff got you curious, and then maybe we can jam out.
Awesome. Hey, guys, you heard it. I know. Danny, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, man.
It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Up Bus Podcast with your hosts, Jason Harris and Jason Rice. To stay up to date with all our content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.